Welcome to the AssurePay Check demo. Today we will guide you through the features and functionalities of our platform through our user acceptance testing site. The UAT site allows for configuration and migration changes, which can then be rolled over to the live site with no direct impact to the end user. As an administrator, you will have access to all menu options on the left-hand side. The menu items include batch headers, approved checks, import file, manual checks, generate checks, import history, export manager, reports, and help and support. Configuration settings are typically restricted to administrators like a vice president of finance or a designated team member responsible for setting up new bank accounts, companies, users, and signatures. The configuration menu can include everything from addresses to user roles. Let's start by importing and processing a check batch file. To import a check batch file, in the menu, click on the Import File button. Select the appropriate import profile, such as an accounts payable check file. Choose the file you wish to import, for example, a TXT file, and click Import. Once your batch is done processing, go to the batch headers and select the imported check file. Click View Details to see the checks within the batch. You can filter the checks by date, value, number, payee name, and other fields. You can preview individual checks as needed. Once you're ready to print, select all checks and click the Print button. From there, the job is sent through the cloud to your local microprinter. Additional pages can be printed on plain paper from a second paper tray. If you implement authorization rules, users must request approval before printing checks. After importing the batch file, the user must request authorization, where the status will change to authorization requested. An approver will log in, review the batch, and approve or reject the checks. Once approved, the status of the check will change and the user can proceed with printing. Once you're done with the batch file, you can archive it or delete it if needed. If you need to reprint a specific check, you can easily do that by selecting the check and clicking Print. In addition, you can generate audit reports for printing or exporting to CSV. Positive Pay and Export Manager. The Export Manager is tied directly to the Positive Pay feature. If you do not have the Positive Pay add-on, you will not see this in the menu option. If enabled, you can use the Positive Pay feature to generate files for your bank. This is an add-on module that allows you to download Positive Pay files under the Export Manager tab. Once finished, archive your batch file. This removes it from the active list and stores it for audit reporting. Manual checks. The Export and Manual Checks tab will be visible if you're going to use the Positive Pay feature in the system. If they are present, this is where you will select your Positive Pay report template and settings regarding manual checks. From the Manual Checks menu option, you can generate one-off checks outside of your main CRM system. This allows you to process checks for one or multiple individuals. Just enter in the check amount, check details, and invoice details manually. Once you've entered in your information, hit Save and Exit, and the manual check files will be populated in the batch headers. Generate sample checks. From the Generate Checks menu option, you can generate sample checks to send to the bank to validate if checks have passed through the readers properly. You can quickly come in here and create sample checks that will go to the batch headers where they can be previewed before sending. Blank checks. The Generate Checks menu option also has a blank check feature, where you can generate pre-printed checks with blank spaces for the amount and payee name. This feature allows for printing checks with a microline, check date, and more, leaving other fields blank for when checks need to be filled out in the field. Once the check is filled out in the field, it can then be remedied with your CRM system. Import and export management. The Import History menu gives the ability to monitor what was imported by who and when. The Export Manager is tied directly to the Positive Pay feature. If you do not have the Positive Pay add-on, you will not see this in the menu option. Reports. Reports gives you the option to generate numerous reports that detail the check and user activity. This will show what checks have been paid, printed, by whom, what signatures were used, and so on. You can also find manual check reports and other types of audit reports here as well. Help and support. The Help and Support section provides you with contact information for Troy Support, access to download the print client application, as well as the new feature releases and updates. Configuration menu. As we said earlier, configuration settings are typically restricted to administrators like a vice president of finance or a designated team member responsible for setting up new bank accounts, companies, users, and signatures. Troy will define your addresses for your organization as well as your bank account information. Street, suite, and state can be added in here by our team. Authorization groups and authorization rules will define your approval process, allowing you to restrict users from printing checks without proper approval. These are the configuration settings for assigning approvers and defining roles for your department. If you need assistance in setting this up, Troy will be happy to help. Simply checkmark the users you would like to grant permission from the Authorization Groups tab. Then in the Authorization Rules, define the role for the users. Bank accounts. The bank account option defines the bank account details, check numbering, print options, signatures, printers, and Positive Pay report templates. In the Details tab, you can select your bank's routing number, account number, company, and logo if you choose to define one. You can also find options for addresses, memo fields, account types, and static text fields. In the Numbering tab, you can find check numbers and microlines. If they do not come through the batch files, Troy can assign them for you on a per-account basis. The Print Options tab allows you to define your check type and template as well as a remittance section. You can define if a template is available to create blank checks, what currency is available, and account limits. You will also find options to create zero-value checks, duplex pages, as well as auto-print check copies if that is a requirement. In the Signatures tab, we can define up to 3 signatures per account. Here you can set upper and lower user limits for signatures, as well as the ability to use a wet signature with a pen. In the Printers section is where we define your microprinter, which paper tray to print from, as well as overflow pages while copies of checks can be sent to the PDF printer of your choosing. The Export Manual Checks tab will be visible if you are using the Positive Pay feature in the system. If they are present, this is where we will select your Positive Pay report template and settings regarding manual checks. Branches. The Branches section allows you to define multiple banks you may print checks for with routing numbers, addresses, logos, and routing codes. Import profiles and templates. Troy will define your import profiles and tie them to a specific account. Troy will also define your import templates with your AP check styles and AP data. Once this data is captured, Troy will create a print template that defines your print options. Troy does all the legwork to define and capture your AP check styles and data. This can be sections like check date, check number, supplier address, and so on. The raw data is captured here and we create what is called a print template. This print template is fully customizable. Printers. The Printers tab will define your microprinters to be selected within your account. These can be assigned in the Bank Account tab. Resources. Resources is where Troy will upload signatures and logos to the cloud software. This is then defined in the Signature tab under Configurations using XY positioning. Users and user roles. From users, you can enable different security features and permissions for different users, such as multi-factor authentication or password changes. Users can easily be removed or disabled from the system if needed. In here, you can define if a user must use two-factor authentication, what landing page they will land on once logged in, what printer they are assigned to, as well as which signature is available to each user. From user roles, you can assign different roles for different users and restrict access to certain menu options and capabilities, as well as access to certain accounts. Assign roles to individuals in your company, such as AP user, administrator, payroll, and so on. We can quickly touch on an individual's role with the Edit Role button. In here, you can see and edit user permissions. This allows us to restrict access to certain menu items and all configuration options. You can simply toggle on or off each permission for each user. The easy-to-use interface indicates red for off and green for on for each one of these permissions. In addition, you can restrict user access to each of your bank accounts. This is so each department or group of users are limited to using their specific bank account, preventing unwanted access to different accounts within the software. This makes it simple for multiple departments to utilize features of the same AssurePay license. This concludes our high-level demo of the AssurePay Check software. Thank you for your attention.